Guys, we just found out we're losing $5,400 on this fix and flip that I just had a mobile notary sign with me. What I want to do is I want to show you why we lost this money. I want to break down in the studio, step by step, what we could have done, what we should have done, and what we didn't do to save ourselves from being in a bad situation. What I'm gonna do is, this is part one, and then in part two, my wife is gonna come in because she's my realtor, and she's gonna come in and break down why we lost this money. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Pace's YouTube channel. My name's Laura. I'm the one who's lucky enough to share my life with the man, the myth, the legend. I'm also his real estate agent. So just wanted to chat about this Indian School Road flip and things that we could have done better and things that we came across that ended up kind of coming back and biting us in the butt at the end. First off, I would say that the main mistake that started this off incorrectly that has to do with my side of things and when I get involved. I get involved post-renovation. So I'm not involved in acquisitions. So we've hired some other people to handle that with us. The first thing that was missed is during acquisition, this HOA assessment, the $10,000, that's existed pre us buying the house. So that was disclosed to them during acquisition. So that should have come from the prelim for them to be able to click on their HOA documents. And if it didn't come through that, they would have been given either a CD or a link via email to click that and check that out. When you buy a home in an HOA, when you're purchasing it, they disclose all of their CC&Rs, any current litigation, any current assessments, any proposed assessments, and that comes to you prior to you purchasing the home. You have a chance to review those documents and then decide if you want to move forward with it. In this case, no one looked at that. So that was mistake number one, because the $10,000 always existed and it existed prior to them purchasing the home. During renovation, I was getting some feedback from our construction manager that we were having to put our renovation on hold based on the HOA turning off the water for what's called a new flow repair, NUFLOW, and that's to repair old cast iron pipes. Cast iron turns into like wet cardboard and just smushes. And so new flow is something that you can do where you essentially put in a sleeve and fix it without having to go jackhammer up everything and replace the entire pipe. So it's still expensive, but it's not as expensive and labor intensive as digging everything up and replacing the pipe. The whole time we were having our water shut off and we were having to put the brakes on our renovation, I was wondering, that's expensive. I highly doubt that they're paying for that for everybody, and we're not gonna have to pay for this. But I didn't poke my head in there at all until I started with my listing prep. During listing prep, I contacted the HOA, and that's part of my job as a real estate agent, to make sure that I know what the current HOA dues are, if there's any proposed assessments, if there's any current assessments. And that's when I was told that there is a $10,000 assessment for that new flow repair. What's interesting is the buyer's agent that represented the buyer that purchased this home, he had actually sold a home in the same community a year ago, and he knew about the $10,000 assessment, but we didn't as a team. So number one thing, read your prelim. If you're not a paperwork person, make sure your transaction coordinator reads it for you and points out anything that's weird. Because if someone would have done this, probably wouldn't have bought the house, or maybe made a different decision, or maybe renegotiated with the seller. The second thing that I think was a determining factor for him losing money is this HOA. So not only was the house a studio, so no bedroom, and a 1 bathroom, which is a hard sell. It also was in an incredibly strict HOA with $275 a month dues. That's a hard sell for a buyer. The HOA is 2 $275 a month. The HOA dues are $275 a month. Very common in a condo or a townhome. I can't tell you how many investors I work with who aren't contacting an HOA, or I'm the listing agent and we have a buyer who's bringing an investor and they're not contacting the HOA. You need to know what you plan to do with the property, and then you need to contact the HOA and ask if that's okay, and you need to know what the dues are. So in a traditional retail transaction, those things are very well disclosed to you via the HOA addendum, via the MLS listing. But in the case you're off market, you're direct to seller, you're buying from another wholesaler, read your prelim, you know? And if you're not getting the answer that you want, contact the HOA. Take the extra time to contact them and say, what are your dues? What are your transfer fees? Do you have any assessments? Can I rent out this place? Can I do an Airbnb? Whatever your plan is, you should know these things, and it's within your due diligence during acquisition. So the other problem with this HOA is that they constantly were making us stop work. We could only work at certain days. We could only work on certain times. We had to get full approval. So we went weeks and weeks without being able to start. And when you're renovating and flipping homes, you want to churn and burn. The second you get keys and that house closes, you want to get in immediately, start demo, and get cooking. And we couldn't. We had to wait for the HOA. And then during that, we had to have them deal with them. And so this HOA in particular took our construction timeline and extended it weeks because of their rules. So tip number 2, contact HOA. So ask their rules. Ask the questions. What do you want to do with the house? Do you want to Airbnb it? Ask if they allow short-term rentals. I don't know why this is something that is just really not done, and that's crazy. Then the last thing that I think killed us is Pace was asking me, why are our closing costs so high? We got investor rates. If you're not asking your title company for investor rates, please do. That's not what was going on. What was happening is, again, with the HOA, they have, and in the state of Arizona, it's legally the seller's responsibility to pay for HOA disclosure fees. This particular HOA had 3 of them. So that really adds up, and that's not something that can be negotiated. That's not something that we could ask the buyer to pay. It's just not a thing. You should know what's going on in the HOA, like HOA monthly dues. What are you gonna have to do when you buy the house? Do you have prepaid? Do you have 3 months prepaid? That's fine if the HOA is $65 a month, but it's $275 a month. Monthly dues, transfer fees, and their rules. They're a pain to get a hold of. It takes someone, and if it's not you, it's someone on your team taking the extra minute to understand why you're purchasing this home. And again, that's easy to do. All they need to do is, if they just handle your paperwork, they just handle your transaction, they just handle your escrows for your acquisition, all it would take is for them to shoot off a quick text, hey, what are you planning on doing with Indian School? We're planning on fixing and flipping. Perfect. They can then contact the HOA for you, spend the time on hold, contact the HOA management company, wait for a call back, and they can ask these questions for you to where you have the full picture so you can decide what to do and what not to do. This wasn't the best, but you know, you win some, you lose some. I think that a lot of these things could have been prevented, and probably in the case for this house, just not have purchased it at all. Either way, it was a fun project. We learned a lot. The team will get better and improve, and this is just part of being in the business. So you can't do everything yourself. At some point, you're gonna have to offload some of your responsibilities to help. You're just one person, and sometimes this stuff happens, and that's okay. Long story short, if you make mistakes like this, it's okay, we're human, we all do it. Between everyone on our team, we probably have decades of combined experience, and we're still making mistakes like this. And so it's just a good way for you to learn a lesson, although a hard one. You'll never do it again. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for being here, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.